Ladies and gentlemen of Hypixel, bombshells have dropped. You've probably browsed and used the Hypixel Forums and had to adhere to a bunch of rules. You know the usual ones. No being disrespectful, no spamming, all of that good stuff. One of these rules that has been debated for a while is the act of public shaming, and whether it's valid to do so in certain cases or not. Well, Teddy just put that discussion to rest, alongside some other pretty noticeable changes. What's going on, everyone? It's your favorite blue guy here. Consider subscribing if you enjoy the content you're seeing. I'll be handing out Lunar client cosmetics to 3 random people who subscribe and comment their IGN. So, while mostly not officially being enforced yet, the forum rules underwent some changes. Not that many were changed, but the ones that were make a pretty big difference. Teddy responded to the forum moderation insights thread, which basically lists all current and upcoming forum changes to everyone. 4 rules have been changed, and it's pretty crazy which ones were. You got a pretty simple one here, where you can no longer utilize a group of users to bump a thread by saying bump or having low effort conversations. I'll go more into this one later, but on a base level, I'm happy that was addressed. It was always super annoying to see, but once we get to the next one, things begin to take a turn. Bad word posting is now officially disallowed. That's gonna affect a lot of people on the forums. It may come as no surprise to you guys, but again, I personally am happy with this. Seeing the ratings of this thread and seeing who rated what should give you a pretty big understanding. I've never truly liked seeing those threads, so to see these threads start to get cracked down on a bit more is a promising sight. And if you're angry that you can't post 52-word threads anymore, well, you still can. You just have to face proper consequences for it now. Teddy has since gone on to clarify this a little bit, responding to some concerns regarding what's going to be counted under this new rule and what isn't. It seems like the main thing being focused on here is low effort content and spamming, rather than jokes as a whole. Topics that'll seem to fall under these new rules include plagiarized content, copy pastas, trolling, rage posts, or any other form of content that really doesn't add any value to discussions. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments. Moving on, we come to perhaps overall the biggest change yet. Public shaming is now allowed. Well, not entirely. The change states that if you're calling out a public figure in a respectful and constructive way, it is no longer classified as public shaming. The other forms still fall under that rule. Well, I think this needs some heavy clarification. Would someone like Refraction be considered a public figure on these forums? Is it only for like world leaders, huge streamers, obese streamers? Look, I feel like by being ambiguous with this, players will try to get by this change by claiming the person they're shaming to be a public figure. I've actually been brought up in the conversation that I might fall under these public figure guidelines, which I really hope isn't the case. I think they should be reserved for like actual celebrities. I have yet to see any further clarification on this, and I really hope we get it soon. The last change isn't really the biggest thing in the world, but it's still worth mentioning. In yonder days, users who wanted to post a Discord link on the forums had to put them in spoilers. I guess Teddy realized that most new players hard struggle with finding out how to even make spoilers in the first place, so he's just removed that guideline entirely. No need for spoilers anymore when it comes to Discord server links. I'm sure direct advertising still won't be allowed on the forums though. Okay, now I want to go more into detail about the changes to bumping threads. I mentioned this above already, but the change officially states that utilizing a group of users to bump threads is no longer allowed. And while on a base level I like it, this is the change that I find the most iffy. This change was actually directly created based on a situation involving the concept of guild advertising on the forums. Every big guild out there has a guild thread, a place where a guild leader can promote their guild, explain why their guild is the one to join, and include a hub to find and accept new members. Guild leaders will often bump their threads in order to keep the guild afloat, as to keep recruiting new members and evolve. This is necessary especially nowadays for guilds that are many years old. According to these official rule changes though, bumping your guild thread this way is no longer allowed. This potential conflict was introduced to me by Cookie Billy, who you probably know as guild leader of the Cookie Factory, one of the larger variety guilds on the network. He makes a thread where he notices that his bumping of his guild thread, something he's done for 2 to 3 years already with no issues, has now suddenly given him forum warnings out of nowhere. The issue really being brought up here by Cookie Billy is this being suddenly enforced with no warning. Teddy then replies a bit later, explaining that this is in fact not due to the rules or due to a change in how the rules are enforced. Teddy says something here that actually got me thinking quite a bit. He specifically mentions how the team doesn't actively seek people breaking rules on the forums, and that they only rely on player reports. That right there, that's where the iffy lies for me. And the confusion on this rule seemingly not being enforced for this many years directly stems from this. I feel like it's pretty obvious that the big majority of users on the forums not only don't use the report feature, but have zero idea that it's even a thing. I don't think the forum team should solely rely on reports. I honestly think they should sometimes actively search for rule breakers, even if it's only for a little bit of the day. Only relying on reports drastically misses giant sections of the forums where no one reports. Ever wonder why certain game communities think they're above the rules? It's because no one ever reports posts in those communities. At least in the end, it's been made apparent now that this is something that results in action being taken. But yeah, that's always gonna be a sus method of going about that. All in all, a lot of these changes are going to do immediate good for the site. It's good to see some things be taken more seriously, but at the same time, it's also nice to see some things be taken not as seriously. It's a good balance of both sides, and hopefully this marks a new beginning for the Hypixel Forums. Now subscribe, and watch this cool outro.
Listen up, here's the story about a little guy that lives in a blue world. And all day and all night, and everything he sees is just blue, like him inside and outside.